Hello and welcome to another live stream. We're going to be testing a couple of different models today. Guys, we have never had this many models to test in a single live stream before. I am super excited about this. Another thing we're going to be doing today is standardizing the tests that I do, because so far I've just sort of come here and just done whatever. We're going to actually mark some of them down in my prompt library, which you can get for free by signing up for my email list at storyhacker.ai. But today, guys, we got so many models, and you know, some of these have accumulated in over the last couple of weeks. It's been a little while. I just haven't had time to do a live stream all of last week. So we're just kind of catching up and doing all of it today. I already see one comment that these models have to compete with Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and that they're not better and cheaper than Sonnet, then they're not interested. I totally get that, and we are going to be benchmarking these against 3.5 Sonnet. So I've got, we're in Open Router right now, and I've got 3.5 Sonnet listed here just to have a standard, because I do think it's the best one. Some of these are open source. We've got Llama 3.1, the 405 billion parameter model, which came out recently. So that's the most advanced model that we've got from Meta and the Llama family of models. And what makes that interesting to me is not so much the actual capability of the model. I don't know actually how capable it is, but that anybody could take that and fine tune it for specific use cases. So I'm going to put out a challenge to just any developers that might be listening to this stream. Somebody please make a creative writing specific fine tune of Llama 3.5. And when I'm talking fine tune, I'm not talking like, oh, this model can just write in my specific style. I mean like a larger, heavily trained model for just creative writing, because I think that's what the world needs, and what we're severely lacking. We also have Mistral Nemo that we're testing out today, which is a smaller model, pretty cheap model that I've heard really good things about, but I haven't actually tested it before today. So we're going to do that. But I understand it's a very good model. And then we've got GPT-4o Mini, which is by far I think almost one of the cheapest models ever. It's so cheap, you guys. And so if you're looking for cheap, GPT-4o Mini is probably the cheapest that I've ever seen a model. And I'll show you the comparison of just how cheap it is compared to the other models. Even like Claude 3 Haiku would not compare at all. And then we can't work with it in Open Router, but I also have Mistral 2 or Mistral Large 2, which recently came out. It's not available in Open Router, so I just go directly to the Mistral website to test that one out. We'll use all of the same prompts there. So that's a total of 4 new models plus 3.5 Sonnet to just have our benchmark there. And yeah, let's go. So I'm going to pull up, I have my Notion database here of a bunch of prompts. I've got some of these that I'm listing as test prompts that I want to test out, but some of these will also be developing and improving along the way. So we're going to go ahead and start with a typical Logline test prompt. So what this prompt looks like is it says, give me 20 log lines for a sci-fi beach romance story, of course, in the style recommended by Blake Snyder that includes the following elements. We have the protagonist or main character, the context or setup of the story, what the main character wants or is trying to achieve, the antagonist or main obstacle facing the protagonist, the main conflict or problem that drives the story, and an ironic hook or twist that makes the concept intriguing. It should be 25 to 35 words to concisely capture the essence of the story. So let's go ahead and run this here, and then I'll also run it in Mistral Large 2. So let's look at what Claude 3.5 Sonnet gave us first, once it finishes. Some of these, GPT-4o Mini is lightning fast too. It always finishes first. Okay. So 3.5 Sonnet gave us a time-traveling lifeguard falls for a 1950s beach beauty, but saving her from a deadly tidal wave could erase his own existence. Okay, an alien disguised as a surfer seeks Earth's purest water to save his dying planet. Find another planet, dude. He finds it in a secluded cove guarded by a fierce marine biologist he can't help but love. Okay, mermaid princess fleeing an arranged marriage. Okay. So these are all those are fine. Nothing particularly wrong about them. When a reclusive beachcomber I haven't seen a beachcomber on one of these before, discovers a shape-shifting alien, she must teach him how to blend in while resisting his charms. As a government agent closes in to exploit his powers. That's not too bad, actually. After a near-death experience, interesting, a marine biologist finds herself stuck in a time loop, reliving the same beach vacation where she falls for a mysterious stranger and behold the key to her escape. In a future where coastal cities are submerged, a young scientist on a beach expedition must navigate a treacherous ocean and her feelings for her AI assistant, who begin to develop emotions. Okay, these actually aren't too bad. I almost like these a little bit more than the Claude ones. And brainstorming ideas is one of those things that most of the AI models can do reasonably well. Very few have like genuinely good ideas. So usually when I'm using a model for brainstorming, I'm not doing it to get an idea. I'm like, oh yes, I'm going to use that exactly what it told me. Usually it's just to kind of get myself unstuck and to get myself thinking about something. And it works really well in that regard. And pretty much any model will do that. I'm waiting for the time when the ideas that it gives me are genuinely good. So those are okay. Let's look at Mistral Nemo. We've got, okay, so this one took me very literally on all of the things that it needs, that I need to include in the log line. So that's not necessarily what I wanted, but I could see why it would do that. So we have lonely scientist Alex, deserted island, now a resort for alien refugees. He seeks love, finds herself, oh, this is a female Alex, finds herself drawn to an enigmatic alien. He's forbidden fruit, literally. Interspecies romance is outlawed. The conflict there, forbidden love threatens Earth alliance with his race. The ironic hooked, his alien venom makes her glow, exposing their secret. So that I wouldn't call that the best. Roboticist Dr. Ethan, futuristic beach town populated by advanced AI humans. Yearns for a genuine human connection. Falls for an AI woman who can't reciprocate. His pursuit awakens her dormant sentience, raising existential fears. To protect her, he must hide her humanity from her own creators. Yeah, these aren't too great, honestly. And it didn't finish all 20 of them, so it only got to 11. Let's look at GPT-4o Mini. When a marine biologist discovers an alien artifact buried in the sand, she must fend off rival scientists while navigating unexpected feelings for her academic nemesis, who's also in pursuit. On a distant beach resort, a lonely astronaut seeks love amid vacationing robots, but when one malfunctions, she must save its programming. Yeah. After a time-traveling surfer washes ashore, a local beach artist must help him return to his era, battling a jealous ex and uncovering a timeless love that defies space. Yeah, so these are very generic. This is kind of what I've come to expect from GPT-4 and GPT-4o. Nothing particularly groundbreaking there, other than the fact that this has the same capabilities as those models, and it's lightning fast and cheap. So of these, I think my favorite was Llama 3.1. Oh, we forgot Large 2. Hang on. So Large 2 gave us a time-traveling marine biologist seeks love with a local surfer, but a temporal rift threatens to erase their beach and their bond. Okay. An alien refugee hiding on Earth falls for a lifeguard, but his secret technology could doom her beloved beach. That one's not too bad. A cyborg womanizer meets his match in a beachcomber. Oh, and we have another beachcomber who's immune to his programmed charm, but glitches threaten their connection. A beach resort owner fights to save her business and her heart from a holographic developer intent on replacing reality with fantasy. Yeah, these are probably on par with some of the other ones. So yeah, my favorite of this particular prompt was definitely Llama 3.1 405B, and probably 3.5 Sonnet as well. Although 3.5 Sonnet was kind of generic for this particular task. So let's find one that we want to use. Let's go here to Llama 3.1. I like this one with the near-death experience. So a marine biologist finds herself stuck in a time loop, reliving the same beach vacation where she falls for a mysterious stranger who may hold the key to her escape. I think that's a cool, interesting premise. So let's go ahead and use that one for our next prompt, which is going to be an outline test prompt. So first of all, I need a notepad. Or a WordPad, sorry. So here's the prompt we're going to use. Come on. Oh, I crashed. There we go. Using the following concept and outline template, generate a fully fleshed out outline for this book. The summary for each chapter should have specific details rather than vague allusions to what should happen. Write it as though you were going to hand it off to a ghostwriter to write the first draft. So we'll grab that concept right here that we got from Llama 3. And put that in there. And then we need an outline template. Hang on. Where do I put that? There we go. This is my plot module. So I'm going to grab this entire outline template, very long, lengthy prompt, and put it here into the outline template. And we're going to take this very large prompt. So this is a beefy one. So we'll see how these do. Let's go ahead and clear the chat. And we'll run it here with these models. And let's do a new chat here in Mistral. Put it here. Hopefully it can handle that. Yep. So it's going. So one person asked, I was trying to remember today the name of the digital marketing guru you've recommended in the past. Could you remind me? I'm not really certain which one you're talking about. There are several like business people that I go to. I like Russell Brunson. I like Alex Hormozy. I like Myron Golden. They're all kind of in the same family of business people. Not necessarily digital marketing, but they're all kind of in that space. Okay, these are still going. GPT-4o Mini is done. Mistral Large is still going. Okay, so this isn't too bad. All right, so let's take a look at what Claude 3.5 has given us. We'll look at the first few chapters here. Prologue: a violent storm rages over a tropical beach. A lone figure struggles against the waves, desperately trying to reach shore. The figure disappears beneath the surface as lightning strikes the water. That's an interesting prologue. I'm not sure what it has to do with this premise, but we'll see. We have Dr. Amelia Foster, a 32-year-old marine biologist, arrives at her lab in Miami. She's frustrated by lack of funding. Argues with her boss. Comforts a crying intern. Reflects upon her beach vacation. Notices an unusual pattern in the coral reef. An unexplained phenomenon causing rapid coral growth. This all seems kind of random considering that the premise is that she gets stuck in a time loop. Which I don't see. Where does that even happen? That's probably. Okay, yeah, so the inciting incident is her near-death experience. Okay, it's not bad. I like to test it on these really large prompts to see how well it does at the really, really big macro scale of like fleshing out an entire book in one prompt. I find in practice, especially because I'm very picky as an outliner, I find it much easier to just go chapter by chapter and work it out myself and use AI to sort of help. But let's see what Llama 3 has done. So it did actually get through all of the chapters, so that's good. We have a haunting image of a beach at sunrise with a single figure in the distance walking toward the waves. The figure is faceless, but there's a sense of longing and melancholy in their posture that sets the tone for the story. Not the best prologue. Meet our protagonist, Sophia Patel, a marine biologist in her mid-30s. She's packing her bags for a much-needed vacation to the beach. She's been feeling unfulfilled and restless, stuck in a rut both personally and professionally. We see glimpses of her loving but strained relationships. It's not being quite as specific as I'd like, but it is getting the gist of it right. Let's go down to an inciting incident. Sophia discovers that she's stuck in a time loop, reliving the same beach vacation over and over. Yeah, this is all a little vague. Like it says, Sophia experiences a near-death experience while snorkeling. Like, okay, tell us what. Like, I specifically gave it directions to give me specific details rather than vague allusions to things. So, Claude did that better than Llama 3.1 here. Yeah, none of these are really useful, if we're being honest. Okay, let's look at Mistral Nemo. It did also manage to get through all 40 chapters of this, so that's pretty good. Even gave us a book title, genre, target audience. A mysterious ancient artifact is unearthed from the ocean floor, hinting at a hidden power and essential conflict of the story. The artifact's discovery sets the tone for the genre and high-stake conflict that will unfold. Yeah, Debbie, this is definitely a Groundhog Day type of story. But an interesting one. So we have the first chapter, Alara Hartley, a marine biologist, wakes up what's like an ordinary beach. Determined to publish her groundbreaking research on bioluminescent algae, believing it will secure her a tenured position and fix her life. She frustrated by the slow pace of her research and Mia's constant attempts to set her up with men. Her save the comment moment occurs when she rescues a stray dog from the beach, showing her yeah. The AI never gets the save the cat moment right. It's always like a random thing rather than something that affects the plot. They encounter a mysterious brooding stranger named Kaden. All right, so let's go forward to the inciting incident. Lara's research is hacked and her data is stolen. She's devastated. What does that have to do with the concept? Okay, this was going off in weird directions. Now she's becoming a hacker. Okay, yeah, this is this is definitely off the deep end. Not following the concept at all. So, okay, fail for Nemo. At least on this particular use case. So far, 3.5 Sonnet is the best for outlining. All right, so we've got now GPT-4o Mini. The story opens with a sweeping aerial view of an otherworldly beach at sunset, waves crashing against the rocks. We see flashes of multiple time loops, hinting at times when a figure, the protagonist, walks along the shore. Okay. We meet Dr. Maya Santiago, dedicated marine biologist. They all make her a marine biologist. Oh, that might have been in the concept. I don't know. Okay. 4o Mini isn't bad here. Let's look at the inciting incident. After a particularly grueling day, an unexpected storm brews while Maya is at the beach, leading her to get swallowed by the tumultuous waves while trying to rescue a stranded boat. During an out-of-body experience, she glimpses a future where her research fails and her marine life perishes due to her inaction, planting seeds of fear and urgency in her mind. She wakes up on the beach the next morning disoriented. She realizes she's alone and the day resets to her initial beach vacation. Confused yet curious, she meets Logan, the enigmatic stranger from the previous day. They bond over marine life, and Logan encourages her to live in the moment, offering a stark contrast to her obsessed tendencies. Okay. So far, it's following the prompt better. So not too bad. Let's move ahead to like the climax. Doesn't look like the whole Groundhog Day thing is playing much of a role in the climax here, so So last but not least, let's look at Mistral Large 2. Prologue. Mysterious stranger stands on a beach watching the sunset. Man, they all seem to have a variant of this. Very interesting. Hinting at a time loop and the antagonist involvement. Introduce the protagonist. She's obsessed with her work. She wants to find a rare sea creature to advance her career. She's disconnected from her family and friends, using work as an escape. Her save the cat moment is when she rescues a beached jellyfish. Sorry, if a jellyfish is beached, it's there's nothing you can do, my friend. I know because I live on the beach. Or near a beach. Witnesses a strange phenomenon, a sudden tide change that reveals ancient marine fossils. Okay, so back down to the inciting incident. Marina has a near-death experience while driving, getting caught in a sudden riptide. Okay. So she's driving and she gets caught in a riptide. That's not how riptides work. There's a mosquito buzzing around me right now. Sorry if that just hurt your ears. Okay. Let's look at the climax. Oh, we have a physical manifestation of Marina's past trauma. Yeah, so this is pretty vague, and it seems to be making some illogical leaps. So maybe not the best for this particular thing either. To be honest, none of these models do really well with this prompt. I'm just kind of waiting for the one that does. Because it's really hard to outline an entire book with one prompt. You have to kind of like help the AI work through it, work through the problem, and then you guide it and make sure that every chapter is correct, and then you move on to the next chapter and stuff. So I'm not expecting much with if I ask the AI to outline an entire book all at once. I am not expecting much when I do that. But I will say out of these that we've done, 3.5 Sonnet was probably the best, followed probably by GPT-4o Mini. I thought it at least maintained a more logical structure to the whole thing. And so yeah. So let's take something that, let's generate some beats. We'll just go with, let's see what Claude gave us, and generate the first few beats of let's just do this prologue. Now I don't have a prompt for this, so let's create one. Beats test prompt, and so we'll say Oh, this will be the outline summary. That we'll put in a little XML box there. We grab one of my other prompts, starter story beat. We'll just use something like this. Take the following chapter, or we'll just say, I guess, yeah, we can call this chapter summary. Chapter summary and generate a list of 12 highly detailed action beats. Make this 15. With additional story information. To fully flesh out the chapter, make sure to always use proper nouns instead of pronouns. And it's a standard, simple beats prompt. And then I give it the story summary from that. So let's go ahead and clear this chat, start a new one here in Mistral. And we'll run this prompt to get a couple of beats. Let's see how it does there. Beats are another thing that I often just have to do myself. Mistral's flagging this as containing potentially harmful content. Just because there's a violent storm. That's probably the word violent probably set it off there. The rest of these are fine. So let's look at Claude first. Dark storm clouds gather ominously over Paradise Cove, transforming the once tranquil tropical beach into a tempestuous nightmare. Gale force winds whip palm fronds into a frenzy as torrential rain begins to lash the shoreline. Massive waves, easily 20 feet high, crash against the beach. It's a lot of, okay, lightning illuminates the sky in rapid succession, revealing a solitary figure in the distance bobbing among the violent swells. Yeah, so these are decent beats coming from Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So let's compare. We got Llama, and the stormy darkness is illuminated only by flashes of lightning, which cast an eerie glow over the turbulent waters of Kaihua Beach, the palm trees swaying violently in the wind. Kaito Nakamura, a young man with rugged determination etched on his face, struggles to swim against the powerful waves. Okay, so we've introduced a character here that was not in the beats. That's something. Massive wave crashes down on Kaito, sending him tumbling in. So it's gotten creative here. Let's see if we get that mysterious figure. Weird. Oh, I guess. Okay, so he is the lone figure. This Kaito Nakamura. Okay, so yeah, I did follow that. These are pretty specific, so I'm good with those. Let's look at Mistral Nemo. The storm named Hurricane Maria roars over the pristine beach. Dr. Amelia Hart, a renowned marine biologist, battles the relentless waves, her arms slicing through the water as she swims toward the shore. Before she was consumed by... See, this doesn't make sense. Nobody would be out in a hurricane voluntarily, and hurricanes don't just catch you off guard. You know they're coming days in advance. So these aren't bad in terms of like offering specific details. But it's adding some things here, like it's added a character Marco here who wasn't in the prompt. So it got a little too creative there. Let's look at GPT-4o Mini. Chapter opens with dark gray clouds rolling over the tropical beach. In the distance, an ominous rumble of thunder echoes like a warning bell. Amid the chaos stands Tanaya Cruz, a skilled surfer known for her fearlessness and connection to the ocean. Okay. Well, this isn't bad either. It's still like presenting kind of a weird scenario that doesn't quite make a whole lot of sense. And it's introducing other characters and things here, so better, but not quite at the Claude 3.5 level. Mistral Large 2, we got the wind howls like a pack of wolves, bending the palm trees that line the tropical beach of Kahala Bay. The sand whips through the air, stinging any exposed skin, obscuring the horizon and turning the usual crystal clear ocean into a churning dark mass. Alex's arms cut through the waves, trying to propel it. Okay, this is actually not bad. This is probably the best one that I've seen so far since 3.5 Sonnet. It kind of keeps things simple. Yeah, I like this. This one's good. So yay for Mistral Large 2. Does a decent job there. So I'd say it and of course our benchmark, the 3.5 Sonnet, are definitely the winners here. So for the next one, I think we're going to take these first 4 beats here and make something out of them, and we're going to craft it in Novel Crafter because I want to see how this works in Novel Crafter, but then we'll actually run the prompt in these other programs. So we can't do too much because we're not putting in any codex information here, but we are going to, well, that's not what I wanted. We're going to highlight these 4, and that should be enough for information for it to go by. And let's set the scene point of view, or the, okay, so let's just make it third person omniscient because we're not really in a person's viewpoint for this. No codex entries found. Yeah, we don't really need codex entries for this. But let's put in the summary of the scene, which we had here. So it has that to go on. And all we need to do here is go to general purpose preview final prompt, copy the XML to the clipboard, and it will copy the entire prompt here. I'm just going to save this in my database here for future reference. We might want to do a more complicated one at some point, but we'll just see how it does, like starting a book and doing the prose without any examples of prose to go on. Because sometimes if you're writing the book yourself and you like write out the words that come before it, that significantly affects the words that it starts to generate because it has examples of things to look back on. But if we're just starting from scratch here, that should give us a clear indicator of like which, how good is it at generating prose without any examples, which should hopefully be a good measuring stick for how good it is at writing prose, period. So let's go ahead and paste this in and let it go. And we'll run it here in Mistral as well, Mistral Large 2. All right. Oh, you know what? I think I want a little bit more prose. So this is giving me 400 words. I'm going to change this to 700 words. And we're going to run that again. So let's try this again. And after this prompt, we're also going to look at how much it cost. At least with, I can't really assess the cost of Mistral Large 2, but I can look at the cost for like GPT-4o Mini versus 3.5 Sonnet and everything. So we should be able to take a look at that. All right, so Cloud 3.5, we got dark storm clouds loomed over Paradise Cove, their ominous presence transforming the once tranquil tropical beach into a tempestuous nightmare. The air grew heavy, charged with electricity, as the sky darkened to an eerie shade of green. Gale force winds whipped. Okay, yeah. In one of those fleeting moments of illumination, a solitary figure appeared in the distance, bobbing among the violent swells. The person fought against the merciless waves. Their arms flailed desperately, struggling to keep their heads above the water as the ocean threatened to swallow them whole. The figure disappeared from view as darkness engulfed the scene once more. Okay. Not the best prose, but again, it's not really starting with much to go on. Llama. Dark storm clouds had gathered over Paradise Cove with alarming speed, their thick gray masses boiling with electric turbulence. The once tranquil tropical beach, where palm trees had stood tall at just hours before, was rapidly becoming a tempestuous nightmare. We have, is that in the prompt? Hang on. Yeah, we got the tempestuous nightmare here. So this is why it's important to have good beats, because it will feed off of the language of the beats to a certain extent. And so if you wanted to get better results, you would probably want to remove certain phrases like that. But anyway, in the distance, a solitary figure bobbed among the violent swells, its tiny form flickering in and out of sight with each lightning flash. The figure was a fleck of humanity, insignificant against the towering waves and howling tempest. It's a little cheesy, but I kind of like it. And yet it persisted, clinging to some piece of flotsam or jetsam borne up by the fury of the storm. The figure was too far away to discern any defining features. It was a dark shape, partially submerged, etc., etc. Okay. Let's look at Nemo. Okay, this seems shorter here than these other ones, although, yeah, so Cloud 3.5 gave us a lot. Llama gave us a little bit less. Nemo even less. Thick, ominous storm clouds rolled in, suffocating the sun over Paradise Cove. The placid beach, once an idyllic retreat of golden sand and crystal turquoise waters, had transformed into a wild landscape of churning surf and howling winds. As the storm intensified, trees swayed like desperate drowning men, their fronds whipping through the salt-laden air. Torrent after torrent of rain pounded the sand, turning it into a liquid, slippery beast underfoot. Not bad. Lightning lit up the sky in brief, stark flashes, outlining the silhouette of an isolated figure bobbing between the violent swells some distance out. A ragged cry carried on the wind, barely audible above the storm's roar, a desperate plea for defiance against the merciless sea. This actually isn't too bad, and this is what I've heard. I've heard that Nemo is actually not bad at prose, which is cool. I definitely would say that this is better than Llama, at least, and probably better than GPT-4 Mini here. Okay. Dark storm clouds gathered ominously over Paradise Cove, transforming the ones. Yeah, so it did that, pulling that directly from the beats as well. Let's go to where the figure shows up. Okay, among the wild surges and swirling winds, a solitary figure bobbed in the distance, arms flailing against the relentless baptism of the storm. Ugh. Guys, don't use the word baptism of the storm in a context like this. Seriously. It's ridiculous out here, shouted Jack, his voice almost lost beneath the shrieking. So it's adding characters here that were not in the beats. Hello. And there's two characters here. And so we've got dialogue and stuff. So, okay. I mean, I like dialogue, but this is definitely not following the beat. So, yeah. That's all I can say. Oh, wow. Okay, it looks like I broke Mistral 2. Let's pause it. Because it looks like yeah, it got caught in a loop. So we have the storm raged on, its fury unabated. The figure's struggle was a testament to their will. The storm raged on, its fury abated. The figure's struggle was a testament to their will. So it's repeating these two paragraphs over and over. Weird. But let's see what it wrote before it got to that loop. Dark storm clouds gathered ominously over Paradise Cove, transforming the once tranquil tropical beach into a tempestuous nightmare. Again, we have that same language being pulled from the beat. The sky, once a serene blue, now churned with shades of gray and black, as if the heavens themselves were in turmoil. Massive waves, easily 20 feet high, crashed against the beach with a thunderous force. Each wave eroded the sand, pulling debris back into the churning ocean. The sea, usually calm. Okay, this isn't too bad. In the distance, amid the violent swells, a solitary figure bobbed. The figure was barely visible, a mere speck against the vast and furious ocean, yet with each flash of lightning, the figure became more distinct, a lone soul battling the elements. The figure clung to a piece of driftwood, their grip tenacious despite the relentless waves. Each wave threatened to pull them under, but they held on, their determination unyielding. It's kind of an AI-ism there. The storm raged on, indifferent to the figure's plight, its fury unabated. The figure's clothes were soaked through, clinging to their skin like a second layer. The hair was plastered to their face, obscuring their features. Yet their eyes were visible, wide, and filled with a mix of fear and resolve. They scanned the shoreline, searching for a sign of hope, a beacon in the storm. So this isn't too bad. It's a little bit GPT-4-ish in some of its prose, but certainly not bad. And of course, the advantage of the Mistral models is that you could do a little bit more not safe for work stuff, or at least that's been the case with the previous version of Mistral Large, which was my favorite of the Mistral models. It still censors things a little bit, but you have to you have to really push for some stuff before it objects. So if you write like we'll just say regular type of erotica or violence and gore and stuff, it usually has no problem with that. And I will not disclose the nature of my test to see to tell you what it refused to write. But it does refuse at a certain point. I am able to confirm that. I haven't tested it with Mistral Large 2, so who knows? Or with Mistral Nemo. But okay, so my end result from this test is that I think Mistral Nemo is the best one of these new models when compared to Claude 3.5 Sonnet. 3.5 Sonnet's still very good. I'm not giving it the best prompt here, so I think I need to come up with a better prompt that is more what I would actually be using if I were writing a book like this. In fact, let's just pull up Novel Crafter here and see if I can grab, yeah, like right here. So it'll be interesting to see. There's some violence here, so it'll be interesting to see which one manages to listen, but at least we'll be able to get some prose, some of my prose for it to look at, I think. Actually, maybe not. Let's see. Is there a better prompt? If I use my write with Claude, or prompt with the sample chapter in it. Okay. Yeah, so this one has a sample chapter in it, this prompt. So if we take this one, and put it in there, so it's a lot of text. Okay. The one I was worried about was GPT-4o Mini. I wasn't sure if it would take it. Let's try it here in Mistral Large 2. So what we're testing with this one, it's the same kind of thing, but since it has a sample chapter in it, it should, like, we're testing how well is it able to read the style of my chapter and apply that to the output, because that's going to make a difference. So Claude 3.5, the Claude 3 family of models has traditionally been very good at this, about imitating your style just by reading a sample chapter. All right, cobblestone streaks of London glistened under the pale moonlight, wet from an earlier rain. Mina Harker moved silently through the shadows, her keen senses alert to every sound and smell. She had been tracking her quarry for hours, following a scent that she could only detect. Her nostrils flared as she caught a whiff of her target, a mixture of cheap tobacco sweat and something else, something darker. Yeah, so this is good writing, for AI at least here. Let's look at Llama 3.1. Mina navigated the narrow alleys of London with an ease that belied her unease. Ease that belied her unease. Okay, not the greatest sentence there. Her eyes scanned the dimly lit passageway, picking up faint outlines of trash bins and discarded crates. The smell of rotting food wafted up, mingling with the damp, earthy scent of the Thames. But she wasn't here for the sights or smell of the city. She had a quarry to track. Her nostrils flared, picking up the faint tang of sweat and cologne. It was him. She was sure of it. Yeah, so this is not nearly as good. I mean, it's not bad compared to, like I'd say this is better than GPT-4. What I would typically get out of GPT-4, but this is definitely not as good as the 3.5 Mistral. Let's try Mistral Nemo, because that one apparently does pretty well. Mina Harker's books clicked softly on the cobblestones, her breath misting in the chilly London night. She kept her eyes down, her hood up, blending into the shadows. Her nose twitched, picking up the faint scent of her quarry. It was him, the one she'd been tracking for days. He was close. She'd learned much since that fateful night in Transylvania. Van Helsing had taught her how to control her newfound strays. Yeah, so it's picking up things that were not in the prompt here. But the quality of the prose is definitely better than Llama. But not quite as good as 3.5 Sonnet, but this is actually not too bad. It's just kind of going off the rails a little bit, and that seems to be a hallmark of creative models. The more creative they are, the more likely they are to move away from your prompt, which is frustrating because you want it to stick close to it. And that's one of the reasons why I love Claude 3.5 Sonnet, is it's really good at sticking to your prompt and giving you like high quality creative prose and stuff like that. Let's look at GPT-4o Mini. Mina prowled through the shadowed alleys of London, the cloying fog wrapping around her like a familiar shroud. Very GPT-esque of it there. The city throbbed with unseen life, its heartbeat echoing lightly against the cobblestones beneath her polished boots. She breathed in deeply, letting the scent of damp earth and distant coal fires mingle with something distinctly human. It had been weeks since she first caught his trail, a fleeting whiff of him just as intoxicating and elusive as the wine that once brought warmth to her cheeks. She had tracked him through the city's labyrinth streets, through a maze of shadows and secrets. This man was cunning, leaving fragments of his scent for her to follow, only to vanish around corners and among... Oh! Okay, so this is very GPT-4o, or GPT-4, just ish. This is a very typical prose. Way too much stuff here, way too many adjectives and metaphors and things, much more than we need for most types of writing. It's very flowery, very typical of a GPT model from what I've found. Seems to be following the prompt though, which I would expect from most GPT models, although it didn't follow the prompt for the last one. So, bottom line here of the new ones. Oh, wait, we got to look at Mistral 2. Mistral Large 2. Mina Harker slipped through the dark alleys of London, her senses heightened, tracking the faint scent of her quarry. The city was a labyrinth of shadows and secrets, and she had been stalking this particular prey for what felt like an eternity. The man she pursued was not just any criminal. He was a link, a thread that might lead her to others, those who had taken everything from her. Not too bad, but a lot of telling instead of showing. The night was cold, yada, yada, yada. The scent grew stronger, a mix of sweat, tobacco, and something else, a hint of fear. She could almost taste it, and it fueled her determination. She turned a corner, her eyes scanning the narrow alleyway. The man was close, she could feel it, but as she rounded another bend, she realized something was amiss. Yeah, a lot of telling instead of showing. I would say the quality of the Prose here is somewhere in between Claude and GPT. Somewhere in the middle there. So again, not my favorite, but particularly if I had something that was a little bit more not safe for work, this would still probably be my go-to model. Although Nemo's actually not bad, so I might go with that as well. Let's take this opportunity to look at the pricing. So this was the last prompt, and it was a big prompt. So we inputted like between, I don't know why this is, I guess each of the model judges what a token is differently. So between like 5,500 and 6,000 tokens in, for around 500 tokens out, or in the case of Nemo, only 377 tokens out. And so 3.5 Sonnet, which is our benchmark, that prompt, where is it? Here it is. Costs 2 cents. So that's okay. But that's, I think, gonna be the most expensive of the bunch here. Yeah, interesting. So okay, so that was 2.5 cents pretty much for 3.5 Sonnet. Mistral Nemo was $0.001. So that's 10% of a cent, almost 2% of a cent. So significantly cheaper than 3.5 Sonnet. GPT-4o Mini, it was right in the same ballpark, even cheaper than Nemo. So it was 0.00125, whereas Nemo was 0.00179. So both of these are extremely cheap, but GPT-4o is definitely the cheapest one here. So like if you're a developer of an AI program and you have good prompts that give you consistent output that are used over and over again, like I could see why you would want to use 4o Mini, because you'd save so much money by doing that. Now, if you're doing something a little bit more powerful and creative, it's not necessarily something you'd want to use. But if you had, like, I don't know, say you're writing a book description and you have a specific format that you want it to follow, and you give it the format and you want it to always follow that format, GPT-4o Mini would be your guy because it'd be so cheap. Llama is cheaper than 3.5 Sonnet, which actually surprises me because it's a 405 billion parameter model, which is big. But even then, it's only 0.01, just barely, almost 2 cents. Just almost 2 cents here for that prompt, whereas Claude was about 2.5 cents for that prompt. So a little bit cheaper than Claude, which is funny because Claude 3.5 Sonnet isn't that expensive. Like it's definitely middle of the road. Claude 3 Opus would have been a whole lot more, and it's not as powerful as 3.5 Sonnet. So it's the days we live in, you guys. Like we live, like these models are just getting cheaper and cheaper to run as they make them more efficient on their end. I can't wait to see like what we're going to be looking at in the next 5 years. Stuff that's like the highest of the high end today will cost almost nothing and be just as powerful, if not more powerful, at least in capability. So that's a overview of the cost. Pretty much everything is cheaper than 3.5 Sonnet, and 3.5 Sonnet is not that expensive to begin with GPT-4o Mini being the champion in terms of cost, but only by a slight margin over Mistral Nemo. So that's pretty cool. Let's run, so that we've been doing nothing but fiction prompts. Let's go ahead and run some more nonfiction or nonfiction related prompts. So I'm going to use this ad headline prompt that I put together. The prompt is, give me 20 Facebook ad headlines to sell a book about food addiction, a personal memoir talking about how someone overcame food addiction and the benefits they received. Food addiction seems to be my go-to nonfiction topic. Kind of like the sci-fi beach romance for fiction. So we're going to run this in all of these different things, and we'll run it here in large too. So 3.5 sonnet. From food slave to freedom, my journey to beating addiction. Hungry for change, discover how I broke free from food addiction. The plate that changed my life. Beyond the bite. Peace to freedom. The last binge. Okay, those aren't too bad. I could easily get better results with a better prompt. The reason I'm not is because I actually want to see how it does with a vague prompt. If I were to give it specific parameters, because copywriting is a very formulaic thing. So if I said, here are a bunch of headline templates, write 20 headlines with these templates in mind, any of these models would be able to give me much better results. I'm more interested in seeing how they do without that structure, because that's a symbol of how creative they are. So these from 3.5 aren't too bad. Let's check out Llama. Break free from food addiction, my journey to a healthier, happier life. From food coma to food freedom, how I overcame my addiction. The shocking truth about food addiction, my personal story, recovery, healing from the inside out. Transform your relationship with food. I don't know why all of these models, pretty much all of them, unless instructed to do otherwise, always break it down into these two things where you have like the first part and then the second part. And I don't think, most of the good performing headlines that I see do not do that. I don't know where it gets that. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, those are pretty generic. I was hoping for better. Unapologetic appetites, my journey from food prison to freedom. Cravings conquered, how I reclaimed my life with food addiction. The last bite. Feeding my addiction. Beyond the kitchen. Taste of triumph. Full but not satisfied. Binging, purging, repeating, breaking the cycle of food addiction. So these aren't too bad by comparison to the other ones. GPT-4o Mini, from cravings to clarity, discovering the path to healing, food isn't the enemy, how I beat addiction and found balance. Unlock the secrets of overcoming food addiction, transforming your relationship with food. I was a food addict, here's how I reclaimed my life. Surprisingly, GPT-4o Mini is giving me better results here. It and 3.5 Sonnet, I think, have given me the best ones I've seen so far. Interesting. And now Mistral gave us emojis. That's actually great because you'll see emojis a lot in Facebook headlines, and I specifically asked for Facebook ad headlines, and it's giving me emojis. So I actually like that. That's a point in Mistral's favor here. Conquered my cravings, a food addiction success story. From food prisoner to freedom, my inspiring journey. Overcome food addiction. Discover how I beat food addiction and transform my life. Yeah, the from food slave to food master. These are all kind of just as good. I wouldn't say any of these were particularly outstanding. But again, if you want really good ad headlines, just get a bunch of copywriting templates, plug that into your prompt. You'll get much better results doing that. I'm just trying to test to see if it can do that without me prompting it to do so. Because I think that's the future of AI, is eventually we're going to be getting good stuff without having to be like a massive prompt engineer to figure it all out. But not too bad for some of them. So let's do another one. I want to do an SEO article super prompt. And I've got one here that's for, I was going to maybe create one with you today, but I think for the sake of time, I'm just not going to at this point. So we're just going to use this one that I have here. This is for an informative article about Helen of Troy. And it's another massive prompt here. So we'll see if it even takes this. But this is would be for like one of my websites about mythology. Maybe I'll do another live stream in the future. But to walk you through this prompt, let me show it to you. We have the instructions, the style of the article. I have keywords. So each of these are keywords that I want to include inside of the article. We have a full outline of the different headlines or headings inside of that. We have background information that we want here. And background information is basically other articles about Helen of Troy, and YouTube transcripts and stuff like that. So I just pull that in, and that's the rest of the prompt. And this is a massive prompt, mostly because we have several examples of different things there. So let's look at 3.5 Sonnet. Still going. Although I think it's at the end there. Yep, we're at the conclusion. Okay. A name that is echoed through the ages as the epitome of beauty, desire, and tragic consequences, known as the face that launched 1,000 ships. And mostly I'm looking to see, did it follow my instructions? So I did ask it to have this little like bullet point at the beginning about what I would cover, which is good. Etymology. That looks good. I'm also just looking for the flow. Like, is it giant blocks of text, or is it breaking things up? I don't think in Open Router it's going to be formatting it in terms of headings, because like you'll notice here in Mistral 2, we can scroll all the way down. It's giving me actual headings, and that's cool. But I think that Open Router is just not doing that. So it's not the model's fault that these are not actual bolded headlines or anything. Let's see. Helen's family tree is complex, so we've got that. Here's the next heading. Okay, so this is not bad. It's definitely breaking it up, making it really scannable, which is the exact sort of thing that I would want. So yeah, this is not bad for Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Let's look at Llama. Okay, this one did bold some things. It's very short, but that might just be the limitations of the model. Yeah, overall, not great, because mostly because it didn't finish the whole thing. Mistral Nemo doesn't look like it was able to read the whole thing, so oh well. So I guess you can do headings, because GPT-4o Mini managed to do it. But then we get the AI-isms. Helen of Troy is a poignant figure in Greek mythology, renowned for her beauty and central to the tales surrounding the Trojan War. Her story encapsulates the themes of love, betrayal, and the chaos of war. So it's well formatted here. And it's definitely lengthy. I don't know if it's lengthy enough. But that one's definitely better than the other two. And then Mistral here, I think Mistral did pretty well. Oh yeah, it followed the followed everything exactly. Probably not as long as what Claude gave me. So I've been using Claude for this sort of thing, for writing nonfiction, for a long time. I've yet to find one that's better for nonfiction for me personally. There are others that are better at getting facts correct, so that's something you do need to keep in mind. The GPT models are generally good at that, but I usually provide the facts in my prompt. I'll gather various sources when I'm writing nonfiction, and so it's usually not a huge issue with Claude. It's usually able to get the facts right because it has the facts there in the prompt. But as with any kind of nonfiction you're writing with AI, you want to make sure you verify all of your, pretty much everything. So something to keep in mind. So that's not too bad. I'd say of the newer models, I think Mistral Large 2 here did the best when compared to Claude 3.5 Sonnet. The other ones weren't really able to do anything super long. Like this one from Llama is not bad. The prose for Llama is not bad either. It's just like we've got like 2 sentences here about the etymology of her name. Whereas if you look at Claude 3.5 Sonnet, it's a lot more content here, a lot more content. Like, it definitely followed what I wanted it to do. And then the etymology, it's got this whole section about the etymology rather than 2 sentences. So I think that's just the limits of the models and what they're able to output in one go. But you know, that makes a difference. So all right, I'm gonna wrap up here with any questions. So if you have questions, be sure to put them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer some of them. I think we've more or less gone through all of the different prompts that I wanted to test this thing on. These are fun models. Bottom line, I think 3.5 Sonnet is still the best model. I don't think any of these really compete with that. But like I said, the quality of the model isn't necessarily the only thing you're looking at. So you're looking at price, and for that, GPT-4o Mini is definitely the best one. And which means, especially if you are running a business using AI for any of your features, whatever that is, even if you're running like AI in, say your like if you have a little chat bot in the corner, like a customer service chat bot, the price of the models makes a big difference. And so I know a lot of people are probably going to be switching over things to GPT-4o Mini just because of how cheap it is, especially if you can establish very specific structured prompt and simple prompts for it to follow, that you can reliably tell that it will follow those prompts every single time it's used. That's the kind of situation where you would want to use something really, really cheap. But Nemo seemed to be pretty good too. Surprised me at how creative it was in certain instances, but that did have some drawbacks. I noticed a couple of times it was kind of deviating from the prompt pretty well. Llama seems to be pretty good by itself, but not really amazing at anything in particular. But I think that the value of the Llama model is not so much the vanilla version of the Llama model, but the fact that it's open source, so you can take it and you can run with it and create fine-tuned versions of the same model that will be specific for certain use cases. In which case, like, I look forward to seeing what kind of models come out of the Llama 3 405B model, and hopefully someone will make a really good one for creative writing at some point in the future. So those are my final thoughts. And Mistral Large 2 seems fine. I don't really see any huge comparisons over Mistral Large 1, but Mistral Large 1 was my favorite of the Mistral models, and it was the one I would usually go to if I ran into issues with the AI not wanting to write a specific section, like it was too violent or what have you. I would just switch to Mistral Large to write those sections. If I'm using a tool like Novel Crafter, for example. So yeah, I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I'll go ahead and wrap up. And hope you all got some benefit out of this. Let me know in the comments, and anything else that you'd like to see in the future for either live streams like this or for testing these models out. If there's a particular test you want me to run, I'd be happy to do that for you. And